Hello, how the tech are you? This is our weekly tech news podcast / YouTube show, where we talk about the tech news that may have slipped through the cracks. Although this tech news definitely did not slip through the cracks. I am HK Perrin. I'm a software engineer, and I usually talk about software engineering news. And this week, I'm going to talk about Mastodon and how it works. We have a new Mastodon instance called Port87.social. So we're going to be talking about Mastodon and asking you guys to sign up. All right, to the man with the blue mic.
It is I, historian Matt, in the dark void here. I'm not introducing the show today, but we're talking about Mastodon, as HK mentioned, and I got some statistics to pull out, so we'll get to that. I think we're going to do sort of a informal format, but I got some stuff to pull out of my back pocket. And on to Dave.
Hey, I didn't add anything to the docket. I'm just going to respond to what these two people are saying and maybe give you a little bit of my experience as I try to leverage our streaming and podcast platform to bring people over to Mastodon more broadly, but specifically to our instance of it and how that's gone so far. And a little bit of what like administering it from like the web control panel has been like for me so far.
All right. So I guess since I introduced the show, I'll go first. So I'm going to talk a little bit about what Mastodon is and how it works. So Mastodon, very much like Twitter, is a microblogging platform. It's set up to allow you to blog things, very short things. I think it's limited by default to 500 characters, so a few more than Twitter. And people can follow you. People can respond to your toots, as they're called on Mastodon. Not a fan of the name, but and the great thing about Mastodon that separates it from something like Twitter is that it is not centralized. It does have servers, but each server can interact with other servers through an open protocol. So in that way, it's kind of like an email, where if you have an email, you can still email someone else who's on a different server. And you can sign up for your email at like Gmail. You can sign up for your email at Hotmail, at iCloud, all these different servers. Just like that, Mastodon has a lot of different servers. And the way they talk to each other is through this protocol called ActivityPub. And ActivityPub is what is it? W3C, I believe, is the managing body that published it. And W3C published this open protocol that anything can implement. And not just Mastodon implements this. There are actually several different pieces of software that implement ActivityPub. And it allows servers to talk to each other and share the same content and do things like I can... if I'm on my own Port87.social instance and someone else is on another instance called, let's say, Mastodon.social, one of the bigger ones, I can still respond to their toots. I can boost their toots. It's very odd. I'm going to say posts instead. I can boost their posts. I can favorite their posts, and I can see them in my feed. And that all happens through this ActivityPub. And even if you're on an instance that uses a different software than Mastodon, still through ActivityPub, you can see and interact with their content. And this overall network of servers that share all the same content, that's collectively called the Fediverse, which is a portmanteau of Federated Universe. So the Fediverse is comprised of all these different servers with all these different users creating all this different content that all talk to each other and allow it to be interoperable. And that's something that, a centralized company like Twitter can be taken over. Like say there's like a muskrat running around and it gets elongated, and this elongated muskrat somehow gains control of Twitter. It can essentially destroy Twitter. And that kind of thing doesn't happen with Mastodon because Mastodon is decentralized. It's got all these different instances run by different people, owned by different organizations, and you can set up your own, and you can interact with all these other servers, or you can go sign up on someone else's. And Mastodon even includes a feature of, if you don't like your instance, you can migrate all of your followers to a new instance. You can create a new Mastodon account on a new instance and set it up to migrate everyone to your new account on the new instance, which is really cool. And it really puts you back in control of your data, rather than a company like Twitter that can be bought by some elongated muskrat. So that's a basic breakdown of Mastodon and how it works, what it is. Any questions, you guys?
Not really so much a question, but like I had thought about, I think I have an account on like some server that I might have, even like not long after Mastodon launched, that was about like raves or something. And then I just never used it. And I think that two things kind of got me back on it. One is like the sort of uncertainty with what's going to happen over on the app with the bird. And the other was like you saying, hey, do you want to do a Mastodon server? And I said, I don't want to do a Mastodon server. I already have servers that I need to take care of, and I have a lot of stuff to do. Then a few minutes later, you're like, okay, well, I'm just going to do one. You should help me with it. And I was like, that's much better. You're talking my language right there.
Yeah, so it's actually registered and run under my company. So I'm using my company's funds to run it, and it's managed by my company. And you talk to my company's support email if you need help with it.
That's pretty cool. You can also just toot at me and I'll try to help you. I'm at Dave on the Port87 instance. So
I will toot in your general direction.
I think we'll need to post our usernames or whatever. I don't know. What do you call them? The ats for our accounts on the Port87.social.
If I remember while I'm editing, I can even have you see them right now in the screen wherever they should go.
Yeah.
I'll certainly put them in the show notes. I'll maybe replace our Twitter links with our Port87 links in the show notes.
Yeah.
You're probably more likely to get a hold of Matt that way anyway.
For sure.
Yeah, I guess I now have to say I'm actually somewhere, and you can find me somewhere. I went a little viral earlier today.
So, HK, do you want to talk a little bit about the installation process, and maybe if somebody is maybe not necessarily what they would call a guru of sudo, but if somebody has a general understanding of how to operate a Linux server, like what kind of level of difficulty would you say it would be for somebody to put up their own instance? It varies.
You could either do a managed instance where you're just paying someone to bring up an instance for you and manage it fully for you, which my company, Cyactiv Inc., is actually going to start selling. So, or has started, Port87 being the first one, Port87.social. But basically you can go anywhere from managed, or you can bring up all of the servers yourself. So it's a lot easier if you go the managed route, but it is a lot more expensive. And then if you want to go the kind of one-click install method, you could do that, where you're bringing up an instance that someone else has configured, and you're just entering some settings, and it fills in the config for you. The downside with that, though, is oftentimes you're not very familiar with how it's set up, and it might not be set up to your liking. It's also less configurable. So like, let's say you wanted to set it up with a managed Postgres version. It uses Postgres as its database. So if you want to have a managed Postgres, these one-click installers sometimes won't support that. If it's a real good one-click installer, it will, and you can just tell it, this is the address for my Postgres installation. But there's definitely a learning curve if you want to go beyond the one-click install. Beyond the one-click install, you're going to start installing things yourself, running Mastodon from source, basically. And that can be a pretty steep learning curve. I would say if you're not intimately familiar with, getting things running on a Linux technology stack, it's going to be hard. There's also a couple hiccups with the main installation instructions on Mastodon. As of today, when we're recording this, there is an extra step that needs to be done to give the user that's running the Nginx process permission to see Mastodon's source files. And then there's also an issue if you don't have a user called Postgres in your Postgres database that has access to create new users and databases. The steps to get around that are very difficult. And with DigitalOcean, they have a managed Postgres instance, and I'm using that, but they don't offer you a Postgres user. They call their user DOAdmin, and there's no way to configure that in the Mastodon source, at least none that I found immediately obvious. So it can be very non-trivial to install it if you choose to install it from source. But that method has the first of all, you'll know exactly how it's set up. And second, it's the most configurable. You can configure, like if you have a separate Elasticsearch instance running, you can configure that. If you have a separate Redis instance running, because it does use those three things. It uses Postgres, Redis, and Elasticsearch. The Elasticsearch part is optional, though.
The other thing I noticed on DigitalOcean is that the one-click is based on Ubuntu 18.04, and we're getting to the end of the road with 18.04 here.
Yeah. And that's, if you install it on 22.04, Ubuntu 22.04, which is the latest LTS, you need to do that method that I said that is not included in the instructions. And basically you're adding the you're adding the www-data user to the Mastodon group so that it can see all of the files, or else what you will be presented with is an index page like a Mastodon HTML, but there's no CSS and no JavaScript. So that if you see that, that's what that issue is.
And you helped somebody on GitHub with that, I believe.
Yep. Yeah, a few people actually.
Good. That's good.
Yeah.
What is Mastodon written in?
It's written in Ruby on Rails.
Oh, okay.
Yep. It's all Ruby. I'm not sure what the front end is written in, but yeah, the back end is written in Ruby.
Okay.
I'd be kind of surprised if the front end isn't written in PHP just because of when it came out.
Well, I mean, the part that runs in your browser. I think it's React, because I don't have any evidence for that. It's just pretty much everything's written in React, so I would assume it was. But it might be something else.
Cool.
I believe Matt has some statistics for us. Take it away, Matt.
Yeah, I was going to say that everybody's interested. We talked a little bit about this, but everybody's suddenly getting interested in Mastodon because everybody's fleeing Twitter because of Elon Musk. Exactly. He hasn't actually made any changes yet, but everybody's expecting, or he's made some changes to the back end, firing a bunch of people. But I don't know, not much of the front end. He has suspended some people. Anyways, we got a nice graph up here, which shows the daily active users. And you can see when Mastodon wasn't doing that great for a long time. And then Musk, completed the purchase of Twitter. And all of a sudden, everybody was interested in Mastodon. We got a huge increase in daily active users. And then there was a second bump when, right before this graph ends, when there's, a bunch of layoffs at Twitter. So, this one's claiming that Mastodon has like around 80,000 daily active users. Daily
new users.
Yeah, there's new users, right? New daily active users, right? Somewhere I had a different number, but it was about in the same range. On my notes, there were 70,000 people joined Mastodon right after Musk finalized the purchase of Twitter. And in comparison, at least at this point or around this time, I don't know when this stat was taken, but there are around 4.5 million Mastodon accounts total. It's hard to tell though, because as you said, it's a federated universe. Anybody can just pop up their own server anywhere. You don't know how many servers are actually, contacted to get that number. And finally, there's an estimated 4,000 Mastodon servers, so actual servers up. And obviously that's rounded and estimate because it's exactly 4,000. We have no idea. And there may be a lot more right now as people are jumping on the bandwagon. But I hope Mastodon gains some good traction and kind of takes over for Twitter. I used to have a Mastodon account like years ago somewhere. And I was just playing around with it. I wasn't posting very often to it. But I think the server was taken down. So that's a problem I've found with Mastodon in the past is these servers pop up and they get shut down because the people running the servers have a hard time making it sustainable, making money enough to pay for the server. What do you think?
Yep. If you're feeling generous and you like the service, definitely check if your Mastodon server accepts donation and give them $8 a month.
Cool. Are you able to or how much can you change the interface? Like, is there a space for you to pop in info, like maybe a link to Patreon on the side or something for the server?
There is, but right now we're not accepting donations, but probably within a week I'll start accepting donations. I just need to figure out all the tax ramifications for that and how to do it in the name of my business. Since I'm personally not running it, it's Cyactive Inc. is running it. So I need to make sure the money goes to the right place, that it ends up in Cyactive's bank account instead of mine, and that it's, I'm keeping track of it all for tax reasons.
So I've noticed using it, maybe just because, our instance, but it seems like there's a good number, good people posting stuff on there. It's, in our case, pretty topical. We talk about, our, I don't know, what do we call this? Because it's not just IDT stuff. It's not just satanic panic. It's just, but it's that whole universe.
More broadly, it's referred to as the dystopia beat.
Yeah, dystopia. Yeah.
I mean, that's like
beat going.
That's sort of what the people that I've met on Twitter that kind of cover the same kind of stuff we do. That's sort of the name that we have kind of coalesced around for the kinds of things that we're talking about. But also on there, I noticed that people are sort of helping each other out, trying to figuring out what's going on and whatnot, and that's pretty cool too. That it's a good place, I think, for newbies, because I think there's a lot of other people on there who maybe just figured something out. And so they'd be super happy to tell you what they just figured out so that you can know it too. Like when you first learn something, you're super excited to tell people about it, which is actually a big problem on the dystopia beat, because when you first learn something, you actually don't have very deep knowledge about it, do you?
I just found out today that there's a 500 character limit. Ask me how I know.
Yep, there is a 500 character limit because we have mostly the default settings. But there is, we do have a lot of settings that we've kind of tailored for moderation. That's another really nice thing about the Fediverse, is that if you're on an instance and it's not moderated the way you want it to be, you can jump ship, go to a different instance, migrate all your followers, and be on a much better moderated instance. Some instances allow traffic from servers that are known to have a bit more toxic users. We're trying to limit that effect. Basically, if it's not something that, if it's not illegal content, I'm going to try not to block it, but I will make it so that it doesn't appear in the feed, in the Fediverse feed, the federated feed. Which that's something a server admin can do. You can set it up so that just traffic is completely blocked from an entire server. And I'll do that if servers are sharing illegal information or illegal content. And then there's another way to limit it where people can still follow the users there and they'll get it in their own feed, but they won't see it in the federated feed, like the public kind of like known servers feed.
Yeah, you want to talk a little bit about those feeds?
Yeah, so there's a few different feeds in Mastodon. There's essentially 3 different feeds. There's the local feed. That is the feed of everyone that's on your instance of Mastodon. So if you are on Mastodon.social, you'll see everyone from Mastodon.social posting. If you're on Port87.social, which I hope you will be, you will see everyone on Port87.social, everything that they post. And then there's your home feed. That's the feed of everyone you're following, what they're posting, and what they're reblogging or boosting. And then there's the federated feed. That feed is more of a whatever this server has allowed to be put in that federated feed. And a lot of it comes from other servers from like, if I follow someone on another server, now my server knows that other server exists. And there's also Mastodon relays, which are basically servers whose whole purpose is to aggregate all of the posts and push them out to everyone, kind of like a publish subscribe model where you as a server owner can subscribe your server to that relay and you push all your content to that relay. And then the other servers in that relay, when they push their content, you get it back on your server. So that's the federated feed. You see all that stuff from everything. And the Mastodon developers have decided in the mobile app, so in the app you run on your phone, they in the official Mastodon app, they decided not to have that federated feed because they felt that the federated feed was a lot of noise to signal. So you get your home feed and you can search for hashtags, and you can find things by searching for hashtags from any other server. Any other server that your server hasn't blocked.
Cool. So real quick, I just want to kind of show people what it's going to look like if they were to go to Port87.social. I've removed my personal email address and whatnot from the page here, and I figure HK over time, you're probably the branding is gonna this is gonna look different at some point.
Yes,
I feel like
because
we're still in we're calling it the public beta, so a lot of the imagery is still like the default Mastodon imagery and whatnot. So,
do you have it up?
I have it up now.
Okay. Yeah.
So here's what it looks like when you show up. You can either, if you're already a member of the server, you can log in. You have to be a member of our server to log into our server. If you're a member of a different Mastodon server, you have to go there to log in. You can't use your login credentials from someone else's server to come onto ours. That's over here on the right side, right above our logo here. Over here on the left, there's a sign up form, but it also has like 3 of the best people on Mastodon right there. When it says who the users you might discover, that's HK historian Matt and the media wench. It doesn't even show me. It's like, sorry, you get the media wench. And you just pick a username, an email address, a password, use a password manager, let it generate your password, and agree to the rules and sign up, and you'll get an email just like any other service that you sign up for. Ours, for some reason, for right now, it seems to be sending a lot of your confirmation emails to spam. So just check your spam folder like you would with anything, actually, you just signed up for. If you're not getting the confirmation email, always check your spam folder anyway. But this is like the basic Mastodon sign up form. Almost every server is going to look like this. You don't need to sign up for every server that everybody you know is on. In fact, that's chaos. You shouldn't do that, and you'll lose track of it, because it like HK was saying, if you don't like the server you're on, if maybe it starts to run slow because too many people show up and they're not able to throw compute assets at it fast enough, or if there's people on there being rude and harassing other people, or you just found out there's another server that tends to have content you're more interested in. Like ours is going to be generally, there's going to be a lot of techie people right now. Most of the people that have joined are actually from our Twitch community. And so those are going to be people interested in the dystopia beat. But as it grows, I figure maybe we'll get more software developers on there, maybe more normies even. Maybe some normies will come hang out. And so yeah, you just sign up and then you can go on there. Your home feed will be empty, but you can check the feed for the server and the Fediverse immediately. And on the feed for the server, that's the local one, you're going to find people who are probably good to follow because they're already part of a community, and the people that are on our server, unless there's people unless people have slipped through the cracks, everybody there's pretty nice and going to be posting like interesting things, or at least things that we think are interesting, and there's not going to be a lot of spam unless you consider me constantly posting about my Twitch streams to be spam, in which case, I mean, that's just, you're just going to have to deal with that. But you can
you could also block anyone if you don't want to see their content, just like any other social platform. But you can also sign up through the mobile app. And one thing I do want to say, when you download the official mobile app, the Mastodon official mobile app, they'll have a list of instances that you can sign up for, and they're more like the popular instances. But you can also just put in the address of a server. So if you want to sign up with ours, you just type in port87.social and just wait for it to come up in the list. If it's not coming up in the list, then probably something's misspelled. But do give it a little bit while it downloads information from the server. But yeah, you can also, like, if there's a server that's catered to like a specific kind of content that you really like there's one called Mastodon, I believe, which is like all about free and open source software. If you're really into that, you can go to that instance. It lets you go to like whatever instance you want, and you can still see the same content from other instances as well. But in that local feed, you'll see a lot of the people that share your same interest if you're on an instance that is about that interest.
And this all sounds complicated, but it's fairly friction-free. If you have someone's address, you can find them.
Yeah.
One of our regulars in our Twitch chat, who goes by Roland Alley Art, is on a San Francisco Bay Area server that's mostly about art. But she's been retooting my toots, and I've been retooting her toots. So people on our server are going to see her art, even though she's not on our server, if they go to the local feed, because I've been retweeting her wonderful artwork. It all sounds complicated, but like once a server gets going and you get a few active users in there that have friends or connections outside of the immediate server, you're going to start getting a really rich and interesting local feed that's going to kind of be curated insofar as the users on the server retweeting things from other servers could be considered curation, I suppose.
Yeah. And it definitely, as you're retweeting things from other servers, you're building that local feed, like you said. And that's a great way, if you're just starting, to find other content outside of your server. And if you do want to find, if you want to find people outside your server and you know their handle, the way you would type it in, and you can just type it into the search bar, you type in the @ symbol and then their handle, and then another @ symbol, and then the server that they're on. So if I was looking for someone on Mastodon and say their name were fictitious dude, it would be @fictitiousdude@mastodon.com or whatever. I forget.
Yeah, and as people migrate too, a lot of people are changing their Twitter, the visible Twitter name to include their Mastodon handle. So if you have a few people you really like that you follow, check their Twitter and see if maybe they have it, or tweet at them and be like, hey, are you on Mastodon too?
Yeah. Yeah, the more people migrate from Twitter to Mastodon, I feel like it's going to eventually reach a critical mass where it's, people are going to be more on Mastodon than they are on Twitter. Sharing more things, producing more content on Mastodon rather than Twitter.
I'm skeptical that that's going to happen anytime soon, but I think this bump is good because I think it's the service might be taken more seriously as a social media option as more people join. I'm just not sure that this is going to go, but it's definitely more lively around there. Everybody says it, like all the old school heads that are on there that I see tooting. They're definitely happy about how much more lively things are around there, and that there's more, like, I guess, more normies on there, less, because it used to just be a bunch of very technical people that were using it. Now there's like a lot more normies on there, and like you need the normies on your service or it's never going to go anywhere.
Yep.
Because most people are actually what we would consider just regular people.
Yeah. Yeah. And I feel like once we have, once big name celebrities start to move over, that's going to draw in a lot more people as well. So, if you start to see big name celebrities coming on to Mastodon, then it's probably only going to be like a matter of time.
Right. Until it's, if not like overtaking Twitter, at least like a legitimate competitor.
Yep.
And the thing so I want to bring up something else too. There's one that's real popular and I'm on there and I think it's nice. It's called CounterSocial. They have a lot of users, but they're not federated. I believe the guy has forked the Mastodon code. Not for nothing. The guy who does that is just a brilliant programmer. The guy's Jester. A million people called themselves Jester, but this guy's like fairly famous, like a well-known programmer. And I think, he's basically said why he wanted to fork it in this way, why he wanted to walled garden it. And it's up to him. And if you want to join that, that's fine. But I think that if you want to like kind of have fun and like, I think like joining any of the federated servers is just a lot more fun, especially if you like to learn and kind of tinker with things and poke around and it's just more fun. And there's nothing stopping you from joining both and seeing what you like. There's some other competitors out there. One's called Tribal, but it's more like a Facebook clone. And there are a lot of shit libs on there, so I don't really like it. So like Blue Wave, I'm like, stop it, just stop it.
Yeah. Also, we should talk about like verified as well, because there is a way in Mastodon to kind of verify your account. If you have some sort of presence online, and like if you have an online portfolio or you have an online like contact page, you can add a link to your Mastodon account with an HTML attribute called rel equals me, and that will basically validate your Mastodon account so that people will know that account, if you list that in your like the URL of your portfolio online, if you list that in your Mastodon account, it will verify it basically.
Right. Yeah, I was playing around with that on Counter, and I'll probably figure out a way to do that with our website. And another way that people can be verified, like, for example, if you work for an organization, right, and you're the CEO of that organization, well, you can just use the domain of, for example, Microsoft.com. And then people know it's you if it's, if let's say I'm the head of Microsoft, and if it was @Dave@Microsoft.com, well, people would be able to know that was me because of the URL, because it links back to a specific server that I'm the only one who's going to be Dave on that server. And so so for organizations, just having everybody at the domain of the organization is going to serve a verification purpose, because that's, I think, probably not impossible to spoof, but probably non-trivial if you wanted to try to spoof that.
That would be impossible to spoof. You would have to own the domain to be able to do that. But also, if you are a company and you'd like to do that, and you don't want to manage it yourself, because it is actually a fairly non-trivial task to manage a Mastodon instance, then like I was saying earlier, my company, Cyactive Inc., is going to manage instances like this. So you can sign up with us. We can work out a contract, and Cyactive Inc. will manage your Mastodon instance. And basically, all I would do is bring up the instance and give you an IP address, and you would just put that in your DNS as a subdomain. So something like you were saying, Microsoft, it would be like social.microsoft.com or mastodon.microsoft.com, because it does need its own domain. It won't work as like slash Mastodon or slash social. But as long as you have a domain or a subdomain for it, then like Dave was saying, that is great for verification. So if you're like a company and you want to advertise, you want to do some self-promotion on Mastodon, definitely check out cyactive.com. And if you would like a managed instance.
And where can they contact you on Mastodon?
So I'm at hperrin at port87.social.
Okay.
Yep, you can contact me there or support at cyactive.com. That's an email, not a Mastodon.
This all gets a little more complicated now.
Yeah.
And so how do you get a blue check mark?
You just add it.
Oh.
Yeah, add it in your CSS.
Yeah, verification, like we were saying, is going to be one of two things. You can verify your URL by having it link back, basically, or bigger organizations would probably just use their domain as verification.
Yep.
Well, I think that's as good a place as any to end it. This has been a fun discussion of Mastodon. I kind of liked doing this format this week because it was less formatted and more to my personal liking and the style of potting I usually do. I'm just really mad there was no chat overlay telling us that we're wrong about everything. But HK, do you want to read the show out?
Yeah. And I do want to close with, I'm so excited personally that Mastodon is taking off, because I am a huge fan of federated social networks. I think it really does. It allows competition and it allows innovation, and it really it's a good thing that no one person owns Mastodon. Mastodon is this thing that's been built up as a community effort. So it's really awesome to see that people are interested in it, and I'm like really passionate about it. So yeah, that's how I'll end it. And then so to close out the show, we do this show every week, and we try to get it out on Wednesday. And if you just caught the show, then check us out live on twitch.com/Echoplex. twitch.tv/Echoplex Media. Where we do a stream every Wednesday at 7 p.m. We stream Thursdays, Fridays, Saturdays. Check us out at echoplexmedia.com. There you can find information about all the shows. And if you want to support us, it's patreon.com/Echoplex. Thank you, and I hope you had a techin' great week.